Zaka Jacob. Taking the vote chori allegations forward, leader of the opposition Rahul Gandhi today appealed directly to the youth of the country, the Gen Z. He says it's the Gen Z and the students who will save the constitution, who will protect democracy, and who will stop the vote theft of vote chori. The move has sparked a fierce backlash, particularly with the violent, almost anarchic protests and scenes that we saw playing itself out in India's neighborhood in Nepal just a few days ago. We saw this, in Bangladesh last year. We saw this in Sri Lanka a couple of years ago. Again, youth-led protests. All democracies, all democratic countries where the rule of the mob, the rule of the street eventually prevailed. And that is still fresh in everyone's minds. No one expects something similar to happen in India. There are a multitude of reasons for that. I will go to that in 1 second. But the BJP has quickly seized upon this as a political opportunity that Rahul Gandhi has presented to them once again. They have questioned Rahul Gandhi's intentions, saying that how can a democratically elected leader, and he is a senior figure in the opposition, he is the leader of the opposition, how can he, openly vouch for the scenes of anarchy that we saw in Nepal or in Dhaka for that matter, and actually in a sense chide and sort of encourage the young in India, the youth in India, to go that same route like their brethren in Kathmandu or in Dhaka. But I want to first play out some of the reactions.
Whatever the narratives Pakistan creates, same narrative is propounded by Rahul Gandhi and his company here in India. So we have realized in last so many years, whatever Rahul Gandhi and his left group speaks about and tries to create a narrative in India, same thing is found to be used by the anti-Indian groups and the elements in Pakistan. So that similarity we have found over the years.
Rahul Gandhi should know that the Gen Z of India threw out a corrupt dynastic party in 2014. The Gen Z of India has already spoken in India. That is why repeatedly the Congress party, its nepotistic dynasty, its corrupt family has been rejected by Gen Z, because Gen Z wants politicians who will work for them.
Okay, whatever said and done, no one wants the kind of anarchic scenes that we saw in Kathmandu or in Dhaka. But leave that aside. What unfolded in Nepal, why it simply possibly cannot happen in India, there are a multitude of reasons. I want to go into a few of them. Number one, India has a hugely diverse population. It is hardly homogeneous like, Nepal is or even Bangladesh is to a great extent. We've got a hugely diverse population. The religion, the culture, the language, the food habits, everything changes from state to state, and it makes it difficult for one issue, whether it is corruption or nepotism or anything, to resonate nationally, as was the case in Nepal. Nepal, at the end of the day, is a small country with a minuscule population compared to the population of India. Grievances are often directed towards state authorities or municipal authorities, not so much against the union, because there are other vents where people can sort of vent out their frustration, because we have a multitude of governments. They're a multi-layered security and administrative machinery which will not allow protests to escalate onto a national level. The last time we saw nationwide protests, as it were, and that again was largely confined to northern India, was the Mandal protest in the immediate aftermath of the Mandal Commission report being submitted. The student protest, that was the last massive national level protest that we saw. It's very unlikely that for youth issues unite all demographics. Yes, India is a young country. A large majority of our population is under 35. But there again, different youths in different parts of the country have different issues that resonate with them. There is no one singular thread that resonates with all young people across the country. Also, in India, you have avenues, you have vents, you have these pressure cooker valves, as it were, where you can express your dissent, you can express your frustration through the vote once in 5 years. It also reduces the need to hit the streets. And lastly, there are political alternatives as well, which, you've got left-wing parties, you've got right-wing parties, you've got parties that are in the middle. So there's a plethora of political choices that sort of puts paid to any kind of revolutionary action that the students will want to take. So those are some of the reasons why the kind of Gen Z protests that we saw in Nepal or in the student protests that we saw in Bangladesh are unlikely to happen in India. But nonetheless, it's become a political slugfest now between the Congress and the BJP. I want to go across to a political face-off. RP Singh, national spokesperson of the BJP, is joining us. Salman Soz is national spokesperson of the Congress party. Salman, let me start with you. You know, Rahul Gandhi is saying, and I quote from his tweet, "The youth of our nation will save the constitution. The Gen Z and students will protect our democracy. Gen Z of the country will end vote theft. I stand with them." Why should we not believe that this is almost a call to do what, you know, the protests and the violent anarchism that we saw in the streets of Kathmandu a few days ago? Why is this not a call to the young in India to do the same?
First, Zaka, I think, it's so important in our country that we pay a lot more attention to what is happening to the young people in this country, right? Because for a long time now, we've been talking about this ad nauseum endlessly, that our youth do not have the kind of future in front of them that perhaps people like you and I and maybe RP Singh, we had it in our time. We've seen extremely high unemployment rates, extremely low labor participation rates, extremely high youth unemployment rates. What are we doing this for? Who are we fighting for? What is this politics for? This is for the future of this country. And those who are directly affected most by where this country is headed is this next generation. And if we don't make them feel more involved about what is going to be about the future, then how will India do well? India can
Here's
only
the thing,
well
you know, the Gen Z protests in Nepal ostensibly were for two reasons, as I understand it. One was this whole thing about Nepo kids. They had a problem with, you know, the sons and daughters of politicians, you know, going to other countries, partying, holidaying, and they seem to have a different life than the ordinary young kids in Nepal. That was one big sort of resonant issue. And the other issue was corruption. They felt like the political corruption, it was like a, you know, merry-go-round, musical chairs that were happening between three parties essentially, the Nepali Congress, the UML and the Maoists, and essentially they controlled everything, the levers of power, the money, the corruption. In India, on the corruption issue, you heard some BJP folks, you know, in the package that we played, saying that the 2014 election was the definitive election on corruption. Congress got thrown out, BJP got into power. So that question has been addressed. And on the question of nepotism, the Congress or the opposition are hardly anyone to speak about it.
So Zaka, first of all, on corruption, I think if BJP thinks that corruption was finished in 2014, or after they came to power, they just have to, they'll keep seeing that the reason they lost so many seats is because people are seeing that their daily lives have become so extremely difficult, and corruption is out of control. Out of control. I think they're out of touch with reality, and they'll see in the next election what happens. In the Bihar election, they'll see what happens. As far as nepotism is concerned, we have to be very honest with each other. Across the political spectrum, bureaucracy, everything, all the well-off people, everybody's children are outside and doing well, etc. But the key difference between us and Nepal is that this is the land of Gandhi. This is the land of non-violence. The Congress party is about non-violence. Our origin is non-violence. Our whole fight against the British was based on non-violence.
Okay.
So when our leader calls on the young people of this country, the Gen Z, to make sure that we don't have the kinds of things that are vote chori, those kinds of things can hurt their future. He's not saying we have to be like Nepal.
RP saying, no, it's not anybody's case. That's what Salman is saying. It's not like Mr. Gandhi was asking for the young people to come out and protest and revolt and, you know, indulge in violence. All he was saying was, okay, so let RP Singh respond to that. He was saying that, look, the problem of youth unemployment, joblessness, this demographic dividend going away and you know, people not being able to get gainful employment is a very serious and resonant issue, just like it was in Nepal, it is in India. So that is the thing that you need to address, and not think that, you know, Rahul Gandhi is actually asking young people to come out and indulge in violence on the streets of this country.
Well, I see Mr. Soz as a very learned person and a person who read and understand subjects well. Please go through the data, Mr. Soz, before this debate ends, or we can meet on another debate also. 52 crore people have been has taken Mudra Yojana loan. Even if I treat that almost 10 crore would have been out of them which were taken loan twice. Even then 40 crore people would have taken Mudra Yojana loan. Even if they employ one more, it means 80 crore people have been self-employed through Mudra Yojana loan. I mean, this is a unique scheme which has been offered by Prime Minister Modi ji. I am going through the EPFO data. Please go through the EPFO data. It speaks otherwise of the employment. But the issue is, Dhaka is something else. He says, देश के युवा, देश के स्टूडेंट्स, देश के जनजी संविधान को बचाने, लोकतंत्र की रक्षा करेंगे और वोट की चोरी को रोकेंगे. संविधान को बचाने के लिए, and he was what he was saying, मेरा काम संविधान बचाना नहीं है. मैं विपक्ष का लेता हूँ. My objective is to oppose the BJP. I'm not here to save the constitution. He said other day, and now he's saying संविधान को बचाने के लिए. The basic thing is, you remember that in some 3 years back, he said he questioned an event London why Europe and US defenders of democracies were oblivious of how a huge chunk of democracy in India has come undone. And the problem is that he can't dethrone NDA or he can't dislodge NDA through vote. So nothing else to create unrest among the people's mind, psychological creative unrest, and that was by saying vote chori, vote chori, vote chori. Fact is, Election Commission answered each and every question, and rather there's a question on them now about the vote chori.
So Salman, you know,
five seconds. He took out a yatra with Tejasvi Yadav in Bihar.
Correct.
On the vote chori.
Yeah.
Thereafter, Tejasvi Yadav said, "Thank you so much. Your vote chori has not helped me. I have to take out another yatra, and minus you, because he knows that it has not stuck to the NDA or the BJP or the government or to the Election Commission."
Okay, so Salman Soz, on the vote chori issue, when Rahul Gandhi goes on and on about Karnataka and Maharashtra, and now of course this whole SIR exercise in Bihar, he did this whole voter adhikar yatra in Bihar, isn't the underlying message that he's trying to sort of sow the seeds of doubt in the electoral process itself? And the electoral process is fundamental. It's the foundation on which democracy is built. If the leader of the opposition is sowing doubts on the integrity of that process, isn't that also something that he should take responsibility for? He's basically undermining democracy.
That is what the BJP may be thinking, Zaka. I know you're not thinking that, because any right-minded person would say that we must ensure that democracy has integrity. Our democracy must have integrity. Unfortunately, the way the Election Commission has been dealing with the opposition for some time now, I think they are, to my mind, they are undermining our electoral process and our democracy. And BJP is basically conniving with them, to my mind, in trying to bring down, they basically taken a hammer to the foundations of our democracy, and we are trying to protect our democracy. And what RP Singh talks about, I think it's very important that we listen to what he says. He basically said that maybe I should have some, I should learn a little bit about data. Well, I'm a student of economics, so I learn a little bit about data. In their rule, the reason Gen Z should be, basically protesting peacefully against this government is because this government brought them the highest unemployment rate in the last 5 decades. This government has presided over, he talked about Mudra loans. Let me tell you about loans. Your personal savings in this country are nowhere, finished. Highest personal debt in decades. Private investment, without which you cannot create jobs. Please look at the data from 2014 where you are. It's the lowest in 22 years. More than 20 years, actually. So, please do not give us gyan about how your Mudra loans have reshaped the country.
But having said that, Salman, having said that, last quarter we grew at 7.8%, which is the fastest for any major economy in the world.
Yes, let me tell you, Zaka, it's great that you talked about the 7.1%.
7.8.
7.8%. 8%. I'm giving you that to RP Singh ji. The fact of the matter is, the way data has been calculated ever since demonetization happened, they have not changed coefficients. I can't get into technical details. But if they are happy with this kind of growth, which basically leaves the vast majority of this country in difficulty, and a very small sliver, people like, sorry to say, but people like us, we are doing well. If they think that is the country they want, they can have it. But we will
Okay,
not
so
let them have
RP
it,
saying
because
whether
we
it
want
is
a
on
country that takes care of
unemployment,
everybody, especially the young
this
people.
inequality, even on vote chori, Rahul Gandhi's contention is it's the poorest of poor, the SC, STs,
Yes.
minorities, OBCs,
Yes.
who are the ones who
Yes.
are being shortchanged by the Modi government.
Yes.
RP Singh.
Thank you, sir. Zaka, World Bank says 25 crore people have been brought out of the poverty line.
I'm from the World Bank. Let me tell you. I'm from the
Can I-
World
So,
Bank.
so,
never
Salman,
interrupt you,
come
sir,
on,
please.
let him finish, please. Yeah, thank you.
I never interrupt. You're a learned person. I mean,
Okay.
I respect
Okay.
it for you. Please.
Okay.
So 25 crore people have been brought out of this. This is not my data, the World Bank data. I'm not quoting some Indian government of India data. Coming to, he referred to an issue of election commission. You remember that Loo leaks, Naveen Chawla will go to Loo and leak to Sonia Gandhi ji what's happening in the election commission. Mr. Gopal Swami is on record mentioning it to the President of India. And in spite of mentioning this to President of India, he was made the next election commissioner. But look who's talking about vote chori. You grabbed the complete election commission in your pocket. What Mr. Gill? He was made the minister in the government. What else do you want to know about the election, how the election commission used to run? I mean, election commission was appointed by the Congress president or the prime minister, not by the consensus of the leader of opposition and the minister and the prime minister. I mean, that's how the election commission used to be nominated and picked up. Hold on, Mr. South, hold your breath. But fact is that Zaka missed on one more data, which is that the inflation is at all-time low of -2%. It's less than 2%, almost 1.55 if rightly remember, and food inflation is in minus. Mr. Source, I go and pick up my grocery every month for my household, and I know my pocket is much more safer than what it used to be some 15 years back.
So you have high growth, Salman, and you have low inflation. That is the ideal for any economy. That's the best place to be.
That is the best place to be. But by the way, I'm not from the World Bank, but I've had a long association with the World Bank. And if you read World Bank reports like I have, they'll talk about, the biggest poverty decrease the world has ever seen has come from two countries. That was China and India. And when did it start? It started from just towards the fag end of Atal Bihari Vajpayee's term, went through Dr. Manmohan Singh's time, and continued under Prime Minister Modi. But I want to challenge the BJP. They talk about development in a country where 800 million people are surviving on free food. 800 million people.
Not surviving.
You say that is development?
Not surviving.
Is that development? I'm sorry.
Not surviving.
You and your family may be having a great life, but that is not. I challenge you. Why are you not on free food? Why are 800 million people on free food? Ye Mubarak ho aapko development. This is not the growth we want. We want a growth where we have decent jobs for our young people. You're imperiling the future of the young people of this country, and that is why. That is why.
RP Singh, I'll give you the final word. He's saying again, disparity, inequality, young people don't have jobs. I wish we could show. I don't know if we have those pictures today. The iPhone 17 released in India, in Mumbai, Delhi, Bangalore, wherever they have these stores. I wish we have those pictures to show. The massive queue out there to buy these phones, and these are not cheap phones. These are not phones that normal people can afford. At least middle class, lower middle class folks can afford. But the queues outside that store. I mean, I'm not saying it's an indication of anything, but I certainly don't see that as an indication of a dead economy or an economy which is in the doldrums where people don't have money and people are living hand to mouth. Look at that. Look, I mean, there was virtually a quarrel there outside.
Yes.
Because people wanted to get in, and these are people who are going in. And one of our reporters spoke to a young man. He must be in his early 20s. Gen Z, by the way. In his early 20s, spent 5 lakh rupees, got 3 phones. Got 3 phones in one go, spend 5 lakh rupees. Look at those scenes, Salman.
Let me, Zaka, I'm looking. But let me also tell you, Zaka, that if I show you 800 million people on free food in one place, then you tell me what you say.
RP Singh.
That is the thing.
RP Singh, final word. I have to wrap up after this, please. Yes. Thank you.
I have to put a point across, which is a bigger point. What is happening now? This is what All India Personal All India Muslim Personal Law Board said that they were happy with what's happened in the Supreme Court. And after 4 days, they changed their tone and they said, no, they will protest. Now, let me tell you what's happening. Take my word, there's a tangent which is happening inside. Give me a second, Mr. Please, I never interrupted you, sir. You have your full time. I'm telling you the point.
Let him make his point.
Hear me out. Please hear me out.
Please. Yeah.
When Mr. Rahul Gandhi goes abroad and takes support of Ilan Omar, and then meets Ilan Omar. Who's Ilan Omar? Who says that Kashmir should be given to Pakistan. When he goes abroad, his people who sponsor him or people who works for him for those meetings are all from one community, and they are sponsored by people who
But RP साहब, उसका और young people Gen Z का क्या लेना देना है? What is the connection?
I'm coming to that. What happened? Give me a second. There's a connect to this. What happened in Nepal or Bangladesh? They never started with what they finally achieved there. What they turned out to be. They started with something else and then it converted to something else. This is what they are trying here also. Take my word, they are trying to build up some sort of unrest in countries by some means, whether against Waqf board or whether against some other issue, false narrative, and then club it together and then try to dislodge the democratic elected government. That's their objective.
Okay, we'll have to leave it at that. Thank you very much, RP Singh and Salman Soos, for joining us. We'll see how this plays out, whether or not there is a Gen Z sort of wake-up call as Rahul Gandhi has put out in his tweet. Of course, the Congress now clarifying that it was not some call to violence, but he believes strongly that young people will save, according to him, democracy here in India. I want to move on to some other issues, pressing issues which have consequences for India and the near neighborhood. Amid tensions between India and the United States over these reciprocal tariffs, now Washington has decided to withdraw the sanctions waiver for operations at the Chabahar port in Iran. This is a port that is managed by India, by an Indian company. The management, the running of the affairs of the port is done by an Indian company. So the sanctions waiver has now been taken off by the State Department, which has said in a note put out yesterday that the move to revoke this sanctions waiver was in line with what President Donald Trump's maximum pressure policy is against the Iranian regime. Just back in May of this year, not too long ago, India and Iran signed a 10-year agreement linking the Chabahar port's operations, as part of which New Delhi offered a credit window of $250 million for infrastructure development at the port. Now this move could affect Delhi's long-term investment in the project and also long-term connectivity. I'm going to get to that, the significance of the Chabahar port, because this is something that India has been talking about for a number of years across various political dispensations, when UPA was in power, now when NDA is in power. The Chabahar port is an ambitious project. It's helmed by India, but it is in Iran. The United States has decided to revoke the sanctions exception, which was issued first in 2018, in the first Trump term, by the way. This port is key because it's barely 70-odd kilometers from Gwadar in Pakistan, which is a crucial link for the China-Pakistan economic corridor. So Chabahar, in that sense, is India's answer to Gwadar. India has been eyeing Chabahar as an important project in the context of regional trade and connectivity, and also because Pakistan does not give you overland rights. This is a way to bypass Pakistan, bypass Afghanistan, and secure trade routes to Central Asia, which is absolutely important. That is the only way India can access Russia as well through the Central Asian republics. So the Chabahar port being taken off the sanctions waiver list is a definitive blow to future expansion plans there in that port. I want to play out what the MEA spokesperson had to say on this issue, and I'll get an expert to weigh in as well.
You would have seen the press statement which was issued by the US side yesterday on revocation of sanctions waiver that applies to Chabahar port. We are presently examining the implications that this revocation has for India.
All right, I want to go across to Mr. Kanwal Sibal. He's former Foreign Secretary to the Government of India. This is, I don't know if it was a bolt from the blue or, it was unexpected, but certainly it is something that is going to have huge ramifications and repercussions. First of all, the timing of it. At a time when we thought, there seems to be a bit of a thaw. The President of the US and Prime Minister Modi spoke a couple of days ago on Prime Minister's birthday. The rhetoric coming out of Washington was seemingly calming down as far as tariffs were concerned, and suddenly you have this. What explains?
I think United States wants to tighten the noose on India. They want to use various points of pressure to compel India to satisfy U.S. demands, not only on the trade side, but also our purchases of Russian oil. Now, the Chabahar port, originally, I was Foreign Secretary when this port idea was put on the table. And the idea was to actually develop, as you rightly said to begin with, an alternative route to Afghanistan, because we were not getting any overland transit facilities through Pakistan. And at that time, the Taliban were not in power. And the United States supported the idea at that time.
Yeah.
But progress was slow for a variety of reasons. Then it began to pick up. And in any case, we still need this route for access to Afghanistan and through Afghanistan to Central Asia. You would recall that in the last few weeks, there was a trilateral meeting between India, Iran, and Uzbekistan, because Uzbekistan is very, very keen to push this project. And then if it were to develop along the lines that were earlier thought of, then it can get linked to the international North-South corridor.
Yeah.
Then on to Russia. So this becomes a part of pressure that the United States wants to put on Russia, on Iran, and on India. And this is totally uncalled for. These are none of the strategic concerns that the United States would have with regard to our relations with the United States, with Russia, or with Iran, or anybody else. It is a pure connectivity project. It doesn't mean that we're going to have some military cooperation as a result of this project. It's a trade-related issue altogether. Now, we find it now very difficult to handle this, because, as you know, once the United States applies sanctions, then it is almost impossible to have them revoked.
So what is the way forward, in the sense that, does the port become viable or non-viable now? Because what happens to, other shipping companies and shipping lines? Would they be interested in using the Chabahar port because of, the sanctions now going to be imposed? Because they also fall prey to it.
See, a couple of things. Even in the past, before the sanctions were revoked, we were having great difficulty in actually getting foreign companies to help us with installing cranes and otherwise developing the berths, because they were so afraid of US sanctions. Now that the sanctions have been imposed once again, so any help that we need from foreign companies to run the berth and run the port will become that much more difficult. When it comes to Indian companies, if they have interest in the United States, if they are dealing in dollars, they would be very reluctant to expose themselves to the risk of sanctions. It's a government-to-government project. So our finance ministry would also have certain concerns about whether they should go ahead, or we should go ahead and not observe the sanctions, or we should bend under sanctions that the United States has now imposed. It's a difficult decision for us. Now, if we use the diplomatic route behind the scenes to try and reason with the United States, it is not necessary to do this, and that they are unnecessarily sabotaging a pure connectivity project, which is actually gives us access to Central Asia, etc., etc. But then they will want something in return, because Washington has become extremely transactional. So they'll say, all right, in that case, give us openings that we want on the trade side, or stop buying oil from Russia. So they'll use it as a lever against us to extract more concessions from us. Unfortunately, the irony in this is, as you said, Gwadar is next door. United States has never put pressure either on Pakistan or on China on Gwadar. Now, if they want to sabotage Chabahar, actually they're playing the game of China.
Correct.
They're giving China more strategic access to our area, to the Indian Ocean, and they are blocking India's strategic access across the Indian Ocean to its partners.
In fact, a slew of actions move in that direction, whether it is the fact that, no sanctions, oil sanctions have been imposed on China, despite the fact that China imports more Russian oil than India does. Today, President Trump and President Xi Jinping have spoken. I believe, I haven't seen the readout, but looks like they've cut a deal on TikTok. It's very likely that they could meet as early as next month, I think on the sidelines of an ASEAN meeting or an APEC meeting somewhere in East Asia, most likely in Korea. So yeah, there are things that India needs to ponder and sort out very quickly, because I don't think, if we were under this impression that there is a thaw and the tariff situation is going to resolve itself, I think new fronts are getting opened, as has been the case in this Chabahar situation. Thank you very much, Foreign Secretary, for speaking with us. We will see how the story plays out. But related to this, well, related or not necessarily, but certainly in the region, is this whole Pakistan-Saudi Arabia military deal. Again, they've signed a major mutual defense agreement. It's a move that has significantly strengthened what's a decades-long security partnership amid heightened regional tensions. It declares that any attack on either country, either on Pakistan or on Saudi Arabia, will be treated as an attack on both. It's almost like NATO's Chapter 5, which says an attack on one is an attack on all. But the most significant aspect of this agreement is that it allows legally Pakistan's nuclear arsenal to be considered in the defense of Saudi Arabia if required. Now that completely upends the balance of power in the Middle East, in West Asia, at a time when there are multiple wars going on there. It started off with Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Then Israel opened a front in Lebanon against Hezbollah. They're now actively engaged against the Houthis. And of course, there was the 12-day Iran-Israel war. So if it came down to this, if Saudi Arabia were attacked by Israel or by anyone else for that matter, it could potentially set up not just Pakistani troops and Pakistani weapons to protect Saudi Arabia, but also as a last resort, even the use or the threat of the use of Pakistan's nuclear capabilities. Now, while Islamabad likely sees this pact as a strategic deterrent against India, the timing of the agreement appears more of a signal to Israel and to Benjamin Netanyahu. Israel is the Middle East's only acknowledged or non-acknowledged, because Israel has not officially said that it's a nuclear power, but it goes without saying that Israel has nuclear warheads. Like I said, it has launched just recently an attack on Doha, right in the heart of the Qatari capital, where it hit Hamas's political leadership. And this has, of course, spread a real fear amongst the entire Middle Eastern leadership, amongst the Gulf Arab countries. And now with the nuclear-armed Pakistan in Saudi's corner, it does arm regional powers in West Asia.
Following the inking of a defense pact between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan on Wednesday, India's External Affairs Ministry has a reminder for Riyadh that India expects Saudi Arabia to keep in mind mutual interests and sensitivities. The MEA spokesperson, Mr. Jaiswal, maintained that India and Saudi Arabia have a wide-ranging strategic partnership that has deepened considerably in the last few years. Remember, the agreement states that any aggression against either of the two countries, which is either Pakistan or Saudi Arabia, shall be considered as an aggression against both, and that it's based on bonds of brotherhood and Islamic solidarity. It also strengthens joint deterrence against any aggression, whether against Pakistan or against Saudi Arabia. It should be noted that Pakistan's defense minister has also stated that his country's nuclear program will be made available to Saudi Arabia if needed. This under the country's new defense pact. Now remember, that marks the first specific acknowledgement that Islamabad had put the kingdom under its own nuclear umbrella. Analysts have viewed the move as a signal to Israel, long believed to be the Middle East's only nuclear-armed nation. Even more so after Israel struck Doha and the Gulf was presented with a new set of strategic concerns, raising doubts of the US's reliability as a security guarantor, strengthening the perception of Israel as a direct threat to Gulf security. Even though India remains a much bigger trading partner to Saudi Arabia than Pakistan, these fresh developments have eroded trust in not just US protection, but also pushed Saudi Arabia further from normalizing relations with Israel, more importantly, raising fresh concerns for India's position within the OIC.
Now, India is keeping a close watch. The Ministry of External Affairs said that New Delhi remains committed to protecting India's national interests and ensuring comprehensive national security in all its domains. But there are some implications. For one, it does raise concerns of escalated involvement from external powers, in this case Saudi Arabia. It could complicate India's strategic calculus in South Asia and beyond, really. This deal between Saudi Arabia and Pakistan adds new pressure points on deterrence, as it could force India to rethink its no first use policy. Remember, India has a policy where it is codified that it will not be the first to use nuclear weapons. It can have second strike capabilities, but not first use of nuclear weapons. It could also speed up further, military arsenal upgrades, which means we could be looking at yet another arms race in South Asia. It could also lead to the erosion of trust, particularly between Saudi Arabia and India, because there are huge economic ties that underpin the relationship between Riyadh and Delhi. It can also fuel regional instability and strengthen an anti-India bloc. With Saudi Arabia in its corner, Pakistan may also feel emboldened on the Kashmir issue, and that could possibly fuel a broader Islamic alliance against India.
See, India and Saudi Arabia, we have a wide-ranging strategic partnership which has deepened in the last several years considerably. We expect that this strategic partnership will keep in mind mutual interest and sensitivities.
And earlier today, I sat down with journalist Daniel Boardman from Canada. He's a strategic affairs reporter. I asked him about the implications of this Pakistan-Saudi defense pact, and he had an interesting and slightly contrarian take to what has been reported so far. And his take seems to be that India seems to be duly worried, and here's why. And one of the big talking points in the last few days has been around the Saudi Arabia-Pakistan deal. Here in India, there's a degree of concern because one of the clauses says an attack on one is an attack on both. So are we going to be seeing, Saudi F-16s, directed at India if there were to be another Operation Sindoor?
Less than 1% chance, in my view.
And why is that?
Because the Saudi pilots don't want to get shot down. They'll bomb Yemeni school buses and Yemeni villagers, but there's a reason why Saudi Arabia doesn't have an army, and it's just a bunch of Air Force pilots. Is they don't want to risk it, right? So,
what do you think this deal is about? I mean, what is it aimed at?
Maybe the Saudi Arabians want to use them to clear out the Houthis in Yemen. One of the gold medal hopefuls for the state sponsor of terrorism Olympics, Pakistan, will probably be used to take out the most up-and-coming terrorist organization, the Houthis, who had all this Western acclaim because they're sticking it to Israel by sinking Greek oil ships headed to Vietnam filled with Cambodian sailors, right? That's how you get back at the Jews. And a bunch of drugged-up Houthi lunatics will probably be dealt with by a bunch of Pakistani soldiers. So Pakistan will come in again, and it'll probably be a repeat of Black September. Which, if you don't know, in 1970, when the Jordanians are having problems with the PLO and the Palestinians, they brought in the Pakistani military, and they just started massacring all the Palestinians in Jordan. They killed 25,000 actual civilians in a month, and then drove them into Lebanon, which started the Lebanese civil war. But we're looking for a repeat of history where the Arabs pay the Pakistanis to do their dirty work, and then they take out the heroes of the terrorist resistance that they claim to support. So I see this as a pretty funny thing. I understand how India is a bit worried that Saudi F-16s might be coming, but in my view, if you have an air defense system capable of shooting down an F-16 or any of the Saudi jets, I don't see a Saudi pilot risking it.
As Prime Minister Narendra Modi marked his 75th birthday on the 17th of September, wishes and tributes have flown in from across the world. To commemorate this milestone, we present Modi at 75. It's a coffee table book that brings together 75 defining moments from the Prime Minister's remarkable journey. Modi at 75 is a visual and narrative chronicle of a life shaped by conviction, resilience, and vision. Rich in rarely seen archival material, the volume features photographs, letters, and memorabilia that illuminate a lesser-known aspect of his life alongside the historic turning points that define it. In fact, we presented this book earlier this evening to Union Home Minister Amit Shah.
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी का 75वां जन्मदिवस है और इस मौके पर न्यूज़ 18 यानी नेटवर्क 18 ने एक किताब यानी कॉफ़ी टेबल बुक को बनाया है, जिसको हमारी क्रिएटिव और एडिटोरियल टीम ने बनाया है। और मेरे साथ हमारे एडिटर इन चीफ राहुल जोशी हैं, राहुल जोशी जी, और हमारे साथ देश के गृह मंत्री अमित शाह जी हैं, और इस कॉफ़ी टेबल बुक का वो विमोचन करेंगे। राहुल जी।
अमित जी, इसमें नरेंद्र मोदी जी के 75 माइलस्टोन्स हमने कैप्चर किए हैं। ये किताब जो है 5 भागों में हम लोगों ने बांटी है। उनकी शुरुआत की साधारण ज़िंदगी, उसके बाद उनका गुजरात में जो उन्होंने समय बिताया, उसके बाद विकसित भारत की सोच, फाइनली ग्लोबल लीडर की तरह उनकी इमर्जेंस हुई। और इसमें बहुत बड़े बड़े लोगों ने लिखा भी है उनके लिए, और काफ़ी पुरानी तस्वीरें और माइलस्टोन्स कैप्चर किए हैं।
And after the inauguration of that book, Modi at 75, Rahul Joshi, our editor-in-chief, sat down for an interview with Union Home Minister Amit Shah. And one of the things that he spoke about, and we'll play out the full interview at 9 p.m., but I want to play out a small chunk where he asked him about these repeated attacks by the opposition on Prime Minister Modi, sometimes deeply personal attacks, including the one that we saw recently invoking his mother, his late mother. This is what the Home Minister's response was, and then we'll go across to our reporters. Once again, the full interview airs tonight at 9 p.m. You want to be stay tuned for that. But first, a short excerpt from that interview.
जहां एक तरफ मोदी जी इतने लोकप्रिय नेता हैं, ग्लोबल लीडर्स के संग भी उनका इतना अच्छा तालमेल है, ऑपोजिशन लीडर्स जैसे कि राहुल गांधी, ममता बनर्जी, ये लोग उनको तमाम तरीके से गाली देते रहते हैं, जलील करते रहते हैं। तो इसको आप कैसे देखते हैं? कोई उनको मौत का सौदागर बुलाता है, कोई।
देखिए, एक दुर्भाग्यपूर्ण चीज है कि राजनीति सिद्धांतों की जगह व्यक्तिगत बातों पर ले जाने का प्रयास हुआ है। और राजनीति में जिस प्रकार की भाषा का प्रयोग होता है, मैं नहीं मानता वो हमारी डेमोक्रेटिक व्यवस्था को पुष्ट करेगी। लोकतांत्रिक व्यवस्था में स्तर विहीन राजनीति एक दीमक के समान होती है, जो लोकतांत्रिक व्यवस्था की जड़ों को खा जाती है। और मैं तो आपके कार्यक्रम के माध्यम से देश की जनता को यही अपील करना चाहता हूं कि ऐसी भाषा का जो प्रयोग करते हैं, इस प्रकार की राजनीति को जो बल देते हैं, ऐसे लोगों ने जनता ने दंड देना चाहिए। किसी भी व्यक्ति का भ्रष्ट आचरण हो तो वो उसकी व्यक्तिगत बात नहीं बनती है, सार्वजनिक होती है। उसके भ्रष्टाचार को उजागर करना वो विपक्ष का जिम्मेदारी भी है, परंतु चूंकि भ्रष्टाचार नहीं मिलता है, इसलिए स्तर बगैर की बातों को करना, गलत शब्द प्रयोग करना, जो भी आप बता रहे थे, और वहां तक कि मोदी जी की स्वर्गीय माता जी के लिए अपशब्द बोल देना, ये हमारी देश की लोकतांत्रिक राजनीति को पुष्ट नहीं करेगा। और मैं देश की जनता को जरूर कहना चाहूँगा कि ऐसे लोगों को दंडित करना चाहिए चुनाव के माध्यम से।
Right, that is the Home Minister's interview. You can catch the entire interview at 9 p.m. There was a small excerpt on the question of these Gali politics, particularly the invocation of Prime Minister Modi's late mother. The full interview with Rahul Joshi at 9 p.m. tonight, so stay tuned for that. I want to go across to our reporters. Aman Sharma, our political editor, Payal Mehta is joining us, Arunima is joining us. Aman, this whole thing about Gali politics, and Mr. Modi's been sort of at the receiving end of this right from 2007, the Maut Ka Saudagar infamous remark that was made by Sonia Gandhi at that time, all the way up until what we saw just recently, where his mother was used as an instrument of attack by the opposition. And the Home Minister saying that the time has come that these people need to be punished by the people of India, electorally and otherwise. And he also made an interesting point, which I thought was, you find people who are indulging in corruption, and in this case, you can't find that, and therefore, you indulge in this kind of Gali politics. What do you make of that?
Yes, Zaka, I think a very significant comment by Home Minister Amit Shah. He's clearly saying that, look, it is the job of the opposition to, question the government if there is a corruption issue. But just because the opposition over the last 11 years hasn't been able to find anything on corruption against the Modi government, that is why they have sunk to this personal level of Gali politics. They keep abusing the Prime Minister, and this is corroding, he's saying, the roots of our democracy. the Mr. Home Minister also saying, bringing up the insults which have been, heaped on the Prime Minister's late mother. And he's very clearly saying that, look, the people should understand this and punish such people who are heaping these insults on the Prime Minister's late mother. It is very, very unfortunate. And the Home Minister saying that very interesting line, I would say, that people should punish such people during elections. So I think, with the upcoming Bihar elections coming up, and with the Prime Minister recently also spoke at a Bihar event that the insult of his late mother is not just his mother's insult. This is the insult of every sister, every woman in the state of Bihar. Where, Chhati Mata Puja is such a big festival which is also coming up. So the Prime Minister also framed it in the way that, it is the insult of every woman of Bihar. And that is why you see the Home Minister also saying that people should punish such abusers through elections. And that is, I think, going to be a big issue in the upcoming Bihar elections as well.
Payal, just to take forward that point, he also goes on to say and draws the example of what we've seen, for example, in the recent Parliament session, where he says, the opposition could have and should have discussed issues of national importance. They should have brought those issues to the fore in Parliament. After all, if you don't discuss and debate in Parliament, where do you? But ultimately, their only interest was in giving galis, carrying placards, disrupting the House. And he says the reason why the people of India have been rejecting the opposition is also partly because of this, because the opposition cannot find substantive issues to beat the Modi government with, and therefore they resort to these dramatics and theatrics and hold up Parliament, which again is counterproductive because people don't like it.
From Kashmir to Kanyakumari, from Panchayat to Parliament, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's approval ratings have been 11 years going and still going strong as well. That is something which BJP and of course the Home Minister says that the party takes a lot of pride in. When the opposition parties cannot find anything to blame the Prime Minister on, there is not a single iota of any corruption on his government or him as well. The opposition are left frustrated and left high and dry as well. Many leaders within the government will also tell you, Zaka, that it is very important to understand that Rahul Gandhi and company have not been able to accept the defeat that has come their way, not just one election, 2 elections, but 3 elections, giving Prime Minister Narendra Modi the mandate to govern the country for 3rd time in a row, a very, very rare feat in Indian history. And that is something which, of course, they've not been able to digest. So Home Minister is saying that Parliament has been a platform to discuss, debate, and answerable for most critical issues, whether it's jobs, security in the country, whether it's, of course, inflation or whatever. But it seems that the opposition parties, got embroiled in an entire argument that the Congress party has been trying to say once they set up the entire house against an industrialist, next time they take something on as well. This time around, the ECI and Bihar has seated up the whole house. Yeah. Crores and crores of rupees of the taxpayers' money, Zaka, is wasted, and there was no discussion which actually took place. And important legislation, including the legislation that could actually have a lot of impact on the minds and the life of the people, have been passed sadly without any discussion happening.
All right. I also want to play out that portion where he talks about, the opposition using this ruse to try and disrupt Parliament, create hangama, all the dramatics and the theatrics that happen. Ultimately, it's taxpayer money that is wasted and goes down the drain. So I want to play out that chunk as well. And like I said, we will play out the full interview at 9 p.m. With Union Home Minister Amit Shah. This is the first time he's spoken on a range of issues, whether it is on the GST reforms that were recently passed, whether it is, Operation Sindoor. He's also spoken about Operation Sindoor. I'll ask Arunama about it in just a second. But I want to play out the second portion of that interview as well.
पार्लियामेंट देश की सबसे बड़ी पंचायत है. वहाँ पक्ष और विपक्ष दोनों ने अपनी अपनी दृष्टिकोण से अपने अपने सिद्धांतों की तहत देश के मुद्दों पर चर्चा करनी चाहिए. चर्चा करने से के लिए इससे बड़ा कोई मंच है नहीं. आप पहले दिन से ही पार्लियामेंट को बिखेर देने का प्रयास करोगे और वंदे मातरम होगा तब तक बिखेरते रहोगे और फिर कहोगे कि हमें बोलने नहीं देते हैं. बोलने का समय स्पीकर साहब देंगे तो आप वॉकआउट कर जाओगे. बोलने का समय देंगे तो आप राजकीय तंज लगाने में समय जाया कर दोगे. मुद्दों पर बात नहीं करोगे, पार्लियामेंट चलाने के नियमों को नहीं मानोगे और फिर कहोगे कि हमें बोलने नहीं देते, तो पार्लियामेंट फ्रीस्टाइल तरीके से नहीं चल सकती. पार्लियामेंट चलाने के नियम बने हैं और उनके परनाना और दादी के समय से बने हुए हैं, राहुल जी के. उस नियमों से ही पार्लियामेंट चल सकती है। और आदर्श सांसद वही होता है कि वो जो नियमों के फ्रेमवर्क में अपनी बात को सटीक तरीके से रख पाए। खैर, मेरी ये सब बातों का असर नहीं होने वाला है, मगर मैं देश की जनता को ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि मोदी जी ने मल्टी पार्टी पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेटिक सिस्टम को पुष्ट करने के लिए हमेशा आग्रह रखा है कि संसदीय शुचिता और पार्लियामेंट्री डिसिप्लिन, ये दोनों का पालन किया जाना चाहिए।
All right, I also want to go across to Arunima. He was also asked a question about Operation Sindoor, and he had a very different take. It's not just an incident in isolation or an operation in isolation. He went all the way back to Uri, and then Pulwama, and then Pahalgam, and he said every time, and he said this is now policy, that every time India and Indian citizens are affected or killed, there will be a strong reply. Ghar mein ghus ke marenge. That has now become a policy, is what he said. So this is now the new anti-terror doctrine of the Modi government. Every time, whether it was 2017, whether it was 2019, or the latest one in 2025.
Yes, and that's why government repeatedly says that Operation Sindoor is on pause mode. That operation has not ended. So if there is any terror attack in Kashmir or anywhere else that Pakistan-backed Lashkar or Jaish-e-Mohammed or TRF tries, then the response will be what we saw in Operation Sindoor. And we've seen that, from Uri right up to Operation Sindoor, the scale has gone up. In Uri, we went and struck Lashkar-e-Toiba launch pads in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. Then Balakot happened, where airstrikes were, carried out. And Group Captain Abhinandan, it was considered a huge setback. That how will you get him back safely? Will he go as prisoner of war? If he continues to be in Pakistan's custody, will it take the sheen off our airstrike? But like we saw, the Indian government successfully managed to get him back. And then Operation Sindoor took it a number of notches higher, because no longer were you only focusing on Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. It was Pakistan's mainland. It was its capital of Islamabad, its defense headquarters of Rawalpindi, its port city of Karachi, Lahore. They were all facing, constant scrutiny from Indian intelligence agencies, and the Indian armed forces were translating it. So what Home Minister Amit Shah has reiterated is that this is now policy. And we have the support of the world, because there was a lot of criticism, thanks to Donald Trump, whether this ceasefire happened because of his intervention. But what Home Minister said is that, Prime Minister Modi shares the equation with global leaders, and that only benefits the country. And spine has been inserted. That's what he said, comparing it to the UP era, where he said there was no foreign policy, there was hardly any policy against terrorism. But he said, ab reed ki haddi aa gayi hai. A spine can be seen as far as India's foreign policy and counter-terror policy is concerned.
All right, we'll leave it at that. Like I said, that full interview will play out at 9 p.m. Meanwhile, Aman Sharma, Payal, and of course, Arunima, thank you for joining us. So that full interview with Union Home Minister Amit Shah. This is the first time he's speaking on a number of issues, whether it's on Operation Sindoor, GST reforms, and of course, all of this Gali politics that we're seeing. The latest manifestation of it was the attack by the opposition on Prime Minister's late mother. That full interview coming up at 9 p.m. in just a few minutes. Don't go anywhere.
Co-presented by This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Some more breaking news. US President Donald Trump reaffirmed his close relationship with Prime Minister Modi during a joint press conference with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Thursday, while expressing frustration that other Western allies continue purchasing Russian oil despite Washington's willingness to sanction even close partners like India. Trump says, and I quote, "I'm very close to India. I'm very close to the Prime Minister of India. I spoke to him the other day. I wished him a happy birthday. We have a very good relationship," unquote. He once again reaffirms good ties with India. Listen in to Donald Trump's reaction.
That the European nations were buying oil from Russia. And as you know, I'm very close to India. I'm very close to the Prime Minister of India. I spoke to him the other day, wished him a happy birthday. We have a very good relationship. He put out a beautiful statement too. We have But I said, I sanctioned them. China is paying a very large tariff right now to the United States. But I'm willing to do other things, but not when the people that I'm fighting for are buying oil from Russia. If the oil price comes down, very simply, Russia will settle.
All right, CNN News 18's Sanjay Suri is joining us live from United Kingdom at this point. Sanjay, we've seen off late Donald Trump has been speaking about his relationship with India. In fact, it started with when he posted on X that he shares a very special relationship with Prime Minister Modi and India. Now, once again, when he's in United Kingdom, in that press conference, he reiterated that. So can we say this is a major sign of thaw between India and United States as far as the tariff war is going on?
Well, it is certainly a thaw, but at the level of speech and at the level of...
This is News 18 Network. India's largest news network.
Speaking with us here. The iPhone 17 has made a splash here in India. Mumbai witnessed chaotic scenes earlier today as a scuffle broke out outside the Apple store at Ballakura complex. Even as we saw the iPhone 17 series hit the shelves in India, large crowds had gathered outside every store, not just in Mumbai, here in the national capital as well. Some people lining up since midnight or in the wee hours of the morning to get their hands on the new device. That led to a rush situation, at least in Mumbai. Amid that heavy footfall, a minor altercation erupted among a few people. It prompted immediate intervention by security personnel. The incident was quickly brought under control and no injuries were reported. And despite that disruption, excitement remained high as customers continued to queue up eagerly for the latest iPhone model.
Sale for iPhone 17 series has begun here in India, and here in New Delhi we have people lined up since early morning for the purchase. I can show you the visuals. In fact, this is the line where I'm showing you those who are in fact willing and interested in taking iPhone 17 and want to in fact get their piece. In fact, I am joined by some individuals who were there in line and have finally got their iPhones. Sir, what's your name? क्या नाम है आपका?
अंकित.
अंकित, कितने देख रहा हूँ काफी मल्टीपल पैकेज यू हैव गॉट. कितने फोन लिए हैं?
3 फोन लिए मैंने.
और कौन-कौन से?
प्रो मैक्स 512 तीनों.
तो तीनों प्रो मैक्स 512. और टोटल कितने का पड़ा ये आपको?
ये पड़ा है 1,65,000.
1,65,000 फॉर वन. मतलब 1.5 लाख रुपए एक फोन के, और ऐसे करके आपने 4.5-5 लाख रुपए का स्पेंड किया. कब से प्री बुक किया हुआ था?
हाँ, ये 12 सितंबर को किया था.
12 सितंबर को किया था. और ये किस के लिए है? मतलब फैमिली में ही है या
वाइफ के लिए लिया है और एक और फादर के लिए.
और कितने बजे से लाइन में लगे हुए थे? हम मुंबई में तो देख रहे हैं कि लोग लड़ गए हैं एक दूसरे से. यहाँ पे आप कितने बजे से लाइन में लगे हुए थे?
मैं 8 बजे आया था.
हाँ.
और लेकिन मेरा स्लॉट 10:15 का था.
अच्छा.
तो उस हिसाब से एंट्री मिली.
तो इन्होंने स्लॉट वाइज कर रखा है. क्या सिस्टम है पूरा, एक बार मेरे को समझाएं.
मतलब अगर आपका स्लॉट का टाइम ओवर हो गया तो आपको एंट्री देते हैं फिर.
अच्छा, मतलब आपको स्लॉट्स दे रखे हैं प्री बुकिंग के हिसाब से, और आपको उस हिसाब से आना है, और जब आपका स्लॉट आ जाएगा तो आपको
चांस मिलेगा अंदर.
यहाँ काफी लंबी लाइन थी क्या सुबह जब आप आए थे?
हाँ, और लंबी थी अभी.
और लंबी थी.
हाँ.
हमें बताया जा रहा है लोग रात 12 बजे से वेट कर रहे हैं.
हाँ, कुछ लोग नहीं. मैं तो सुबह ही आया हूँ. मैं तो सुबह 8 बजे आया था. स्लॉट मेरा पहले का था 10:15 का, इसलिए एंट्री मिल गई जल्दी.
We have these individuals who have in fact got these in fact iPhones. iPhone 17 series, in fact, the purchase has begun from today onwards. It was officially decided earlier and pre-booking was started. And today we have people, lining up outside the iPhone store, in fact, Apple store here in Saket, where you have these individuals lining up for their piece, their iPhone 17. We know that how the official purchase has begun from today onwards, and the cost, if we talk about the cost, so it is starting from 82,900 to, in fact, and is going till 1,80,000.
एप्पल आईफोन 17 सीरीज जो है वो इंडिया में लॉन्च.
अमित जी, आपको नेटवर्क 18 को ये इंटरव्यू देने का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. मैंने तो वैसे आपको पहले बहुत बार इंटरव्यू किया है, मगर ये इंटरव्यू थोड़ा अलग है. हमारे प्रधानमंत्री, लोकप्रिय प्रधानमंत्री का 75वां जन्मदिन था 2 दिन पहले. तो मुझे लगा कि प्रधानमंत्री को आपसे अच्छा और कौन जानता है।
बहुत सारे लोग जानते हैं, ऐसा नहीं है,
पर आप उनसे 4.5 दशक से जुड़े हुए हैं
जी।
तो मुझे लगा ये मौका अच्छा रहेगा कि थोड़ा मोदी की बात शाह के साथ।
जी।
मेरा पहला सवाल स्वाभाविक सा सवाल है, आप सबसे पहले मोदी जी से कब मिले? क्या चीज़ थी वो जिसने आपको उनकी ओर आकर्षित किया?
देखिए, मिलना तो मेरा एक संघ की बैठक में ही हुआ था। संघ के एक वरिष्ठ पदाधिकारी का अहमदाबाद के कॉलेजियन स्वयंसेवकों के साथ संवाद था। इसकी तैयारी के लिए मोदी जी, मैं जहाँ रहता था वहाँ नारायणपुर आए थे। 10-15 युवा स्वयंसेवकों के साथ वो कार्यक्रम में क्यों जाना चाहिए और संघ के काम के उद्देश्यों के बारे में बताते थे। एक बिल्कुल अलग प्रकार से संघ के काम को मैंने उनसे सुना और कार्यक्रम में किस उद्देश्य से जाना चाहिए इसके बारे में भी युवाओं के लिए एक सटीक टिप्स भी थी और एक प्रकार से लंबे समय के लिए मार्गदर्शन भी था। इतने छोटे से एक महानगर के 1200 युवाओं के कार्यक्रम के लिए इतना बारीक प्लानिंग करना ये बहुत बड़ी बात होती है। मैंने भी नीचे के स्तर पर काफ़ी काम किया है और वो ही बताता था, उस वक्त भी बताता था कि नरेंद्र भाई जो करते हैं वो मन से करते हैं और जो करते हैं वो अल्टीमेट उद्देश्य के साथ जुड़ा हुआ होता है और इसी के कारण बड़े बड़े परिणाम मिलते हैं। कमोबेश मेरे क्षेत्र के ही युवा थे, बहुत सारे युवा प्रभावित भी हुए थे, कार्यक्रम में भी गए थे और उसमें से काफ़ी लोग अलग अलग क्षेत्र में, कोई संघ में ही काम में आगे बढ़ा, कोई विद्यार्थी परिषद में बढ़ा, कुछ लोग भाजपा में बढ़े, अलग अलग काम में काफ़ी आगे भी बढ़े। तो लोक संपर्क और लोक संग्रह, लोगों का संपर्क करना, लोगों को काम के साथ जोड़ना और संपर्क और संग्रह के माध्यम से अल्टीमेट गोल अचीव करना, जो लक्ष्य है उसकी प्राप्ति के लिए रास्ता बनाना, ये उस वक्त हम सब युवाओं के मन पर बहुत गहरी असर छोड़ गया और आगे चलकर इसके कई सारे उदाहरण उनके जीवन से इसी प्रकार के मिलते रहे, जिन्होंने आज दुनिया के सामने जो नरेंद्र मोदी जी है उसको बनाया है।
आपने प्लानिंग की बात करी तो 1995 तक भारतीय जनता पार्टी गुजरात में अपनी पूर्ण बहुमत के साथ कभी सरकार नहीं बनाई थी। उसके बाद लगातार आप लोग 7 चुनाव जीतते रहे। इसमें मोदी जी का क्या रोल रहा? इसमें प्लानिंग और उसको आप किस तरीके से देखते?
भारतीय जनता पार्टी गुजरात में तीसरे नंबर पर थी। कांग्रेस, संस्था कांग्रेस से बनी जनता पार्टी और फिर भारतीय जनता पार्टी, और तीसरे नंबर पर भी हम 11 एमएलए के साथ थे। तो एक प्रकार से गुजरात में पूर्ण रूप से इतनी मजबूत सरकार बनना और इतने साल तक चलना, ये कल्पना करना भी बड़ा दुष्कर काम था। गुजरात में जब 2-3 साल लगातार अकाल पड़ा, तब पहली बार शहर के छोटे छोटे कार्यकर्ताओं को उन्होंने नेता बनाकर गांवों में न्याय यात्रा लेकर घुमाया। अकाल के लिए जहां राहत काम होते थे, जहां भ्रष्टाचार होता था, कांग्रेस की सरकार थी उस वक्त, उसको उजागर करना, न्याय यात्रा लेकर जाना। हर स्वयंसेवक, हर कार्यकर्ता लोगों के घरों से सुखड़ी, पुराने जूते, चना, ऐसी सूखी चीजें लेकर जाते थे। जो अकाल के राहत काम में काम करते थे वो मजदूरों को पुराने जूते देते थे, चना, सुखड़ी देते थे। एक प्रकार से उसी को मुद्दा बनाकर हमारे काम का विस्तार कैसे हो सकता है, लोगों का विश्वास पार्टी के प्रति, काम के प्रति बढ़े और पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता के मन में जो सुषुप्त संवेदना पड़ी है लोगों के प्रति, उसको जागरूक कर कर एक राजनीतिक उद्देश्य से आया हुआ कार्यकर्ता लोगों के प्रति संवेदनशील बनकर अपने जीवन को, उद्देश्य को बदल दे। ये दोनों काम वो न्याय यात्रा के माध्यम से हुए। दूसरा, मुझे पूरा देश का मैं दावे के साथ नहीं कह सकता हूं, मगर बाद में मैं अध्यक्ष के नाते पूरे देश का दौरा भी करा, तो कई प्रांतों में पुराने कामों की मेरी चर्चा हुई है। मैं इतना कह सकता हूं, कमोबेश किसी भी प्रांत में बूथ समिति को इंस्टीट्यूशनलाइज करने का काम नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने जब संगठन मंत्री थे तब किया था। पहली बार भाजपा की सदस्यता को बूथ के हिसाब से रजिस्टर में, उस वक्त कंप्यूटर वगैरह नहीं होते थे, हाथ पेन से रजिस्टर बनाए जाते थे, उसको सूचीबद्ध करना, इसकी सदस्यता का जो शुल्क आता है इसका हिसाब रखना और फिर उसका सत्यापन, ऑडिट भी करना, ये व्यवस्था बनाई गई। और मुझे बरोबर याद है, मैं उस वक्त उनके साथ ही दौरे करता था, मेरा हिसाब किताब का काम था और ऑडिट का काम था। लगभग गुजरात के 80% जिलों में बूथ समितियां, मंडल समितियां, जिला समितियां, इसका रिकॉर्ड बनना शुरू हुआ और वहीं से एक स्ट्रक्चर्ड ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के बेस की शुरुआत हुई। वो रजिस्टर के आधार पर कौन पार्टी छोड़ गया, कौन कितने लंबे समय तक काम किया, छोड़ गया तो क्यों छोड़ गया, ये सारी चीज़ों की समीक्षा भी होती थी, मीमांसा भी होती थी। और उसके कारण गुजरात में हम सब जो युवा उस वक्त नए आए थे, वो सभी को संगठन का काम करने का स्ट्रक्चर, तरीका क्या हो सकता है, एक भी भाषण के बगैर जो इस काम से जुड़े थे वो सब लोग समझ गए। तो आंदोलनों से पार्टी को खड़ा करना और आंदोलनों से बड़े हुए जनाधार को पार्टी के स्ट्रक्चर के ढांचे में ढाल देना, ये दोनों काम नरेंद्र मोदी जी जब संगठन का काम करते थे तब हुए और इसके कारण गुजरात प्रदेश भाजपा की एक मजबूत नींव पड़ गई।
स्वाभाविक सी बात है, जब विजन भी बड़ा है, एग्जीक्यूशन भी इतना बढ़िया है, तो टफ टास्क मास्टर भी रहे होंगे। तो कोई कुछ किस्सा सुनाइए जहाँ पे।
ऐसे तो ढेर सारे किस्से आपको सब जगह मिल जाएंगे जी। मोदी जी हिसाब किताब कठोरता से लेते हैं, इसके कारण बहुत नाराजगी भी है। सरकार में मुख्यमंत्री बने तब भी, प्रधानमंत्री बने तब भी और संगठन का काम करते थे तब भी, मगर कभी भी व्यक्तिगत द्वेष के कारण किसी कार्यकर्ता को डांट डपूट लगाना या सार्वजनिक रूप से उसको अपमानित करना, ऐसा मैंने नहीं देखा। डांटने का या टोकने का जो भी कारण था, उसमें सूचिता थी, उसमें शिस्त थी और उसमें सिद्धांत था। सूचिता, शिस्त और सिद्धांत, तीनों चीज़ों के लिए ही कठोरता मैंने देखी है। मगर हाँ, एक प्रकार से अगर ब्रॉड एनालिसिस करना चाहेंगे तो कह सकते हैं वो बहुत टफ टास्क मास्टर है।
आप कह रहे हैं आपने सबसे ज़्यादा उनके संग काम किया है, थोड़ा सा बताएं उनके आरएसएस का प्रभाव उनके ऊपर। आरएसएस के प्रचारक थे, कैसे उनको शेप किया आरएसएस की थिंकिंग ने?
आरएसएस के संपर्क में जो भी आता है, संघ के संपर्क में आता है, उस पर संघ का प्रभाव निश्चित रूप से ही पड़े बगैर रह ही नहीं सकता। आज नरेंद्र मोदी जी जाने जाते हैं कैसे नेता के रूप में, जिसके लिए देश सबसे प्रथम है, उसके बाद पार्टी है, उसके बाद पार्टी के कार्यकर्ता है। ये जो राष्ट्र प्रथम का पूरा इतना लंबा कालखंड 75 साल का जो दिखाई पड़ता है, मैं मानता हूँ वो संघ के ही संस्कार है और संघ के संस्कारों को लंबे डिसिप्लिन जीवन के तहत उन्होंने अपनी प्रकृति में बदला है। तो संघ के संस्कारों को स्वीकार करने में या उसके हिसाब से जीने में कोई तकलीफ नहीं पड़ती। जब प्रकृति ही व्यक्ति की ऐसी हो जाती है तो अपने आप काम उसी तरह से चलता है।
अमित जी, काफ़ी लोग कहते हैं कि आप और मोदी जी एक ही सिक्के के दो पहलू हैं, तो इस जुगलबंदी का राज बताएं। कैसे केमिस्ट्री?
ऐसा कहना ठीक नहीं है। मोदी जी और कार्यकर्ता दोनों एक सिक्के के दो पहलू हैं। करोड़ों कार्यकर्ताओं के जीवन में उन्होंने रास्ता भी बताया है, कोई भटकता है तो उंगली भी पकड़ी है, कई लोगों के जीवन को नई ऊंचाइयां भी दी हैं और हर कार्यकर्ता को पार्टी के सिद्धांतों के आधार पर जीने की आदत भी डाली है, क्योंकि वो स्वयं कार्यकर्ता हैं। उन्होंने प्रधानमंत्री बनने के बाद भी देश की इतनी बड़ी पुरानी, मतलब 80 साल की डेमोक्रेटिक लेगेसी में शायद ही कोई प्रधानमंत्री होगा जो पार्टी की बैठक में डायस पर से उठकर फ्रेश होने के लिए भी नहीं जाता होगा। 3 दिन की कार्यकारिणी है तो 3 दिन पूरा वो मंच पर आपको सजग अवस्था में पूरी कार्यवाही में ध्यान देते हुए दिखाई पड़ेंगे। वो बीच बीच में माइक लेकर टोकते भी हैं और एक प्रकार से मैं कहूँ तो इसके कारण कार्यकारिणियों की उपस्थिति बढ़ गई है, क्योंकि जब आपका नेता स्वयं ही बैठता है तो सभी लोगों को बैठना ही पड़ता है।
मोदी जी लोगों से एक दिल का रिश्ता बना लेते हैं। मैंने देखा है कि बड़े बड़े ग्लोबल लीडर्स के साथ भी उनका 1-on-1 एक रिश्ता है। वो प्रोटोकॉल के बियॉन्ड जाकर एक रिश्ता बनाने की कोशिश करते हैं, चाहे वो ट्रंप हो, चाहे वो नेतन्याहू हो, पुतिन जी हो। तो और अगर दोस्त कभी रूठ भी जाए तो उसको मना भी लेते हैं। तो ये कैसी क्वालिटी है जो?
देखिए, कोई भी नेता जब अपने लक्ष्य के लिए और अपने देश के लिए काम करता है तो प्रोटोकॉल नहीं रहते हैं। लक्ष्य को प्राप्त करने के लिए, देश को ऊपर ले जाने के लिए जो कुछ भी करना पड़ता है वो साहसिकता से वो करता है और इसमें कोई बड़ा साइंस नहीं है। जब अपने आप को आप निकाल लोगे, अपने आप के अहंकार को निकाल दोगे तो सब कुछ साहसिक हो जाता है। और ये मैंने देखा है, मैंने छोटे से छोटे कार्यकर्ता से बात करते हुए देखा है, उसको प्रेरित करते हुए देखा है, उसको डांटते हुए भी देखा है और बड़े से बड़े नेता के साथ भी इसी प्रकार का व्यवहार करते हुए भी देखा है, क्योंकि उद्देश्य पार्टी ठीक चले, राज्य ठीक चले, राष्ट्र ठीक चले, वो है। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय संबंधों में भी उन्होंने व्यक्तिगत रिश्ते तो बनाए, मगर वो व्यक्तिगत रिश्ते हमेशा भारत के उपयोग में आए। उनकी अंतर्राष्ट्रीय नेताओं की दोस्ती से मैं सार्वजनिक रूप से कहना नहीं चाहता, मगर ढेर सारी घटनाओं को मैं जानता हूं जिससे भारत को इतना फायदा हुआ है। कई प्रकार के अद्भुत फैसले हुए हैं जो कभी फॉरेन पॉलिसी के माध्यम से होना असंभव था।